Enjoy this interview with Kevin Dougherty. We had the pleasure of talking to him. He's one of Troy's clients. He is on the Korn Ferry Tour currently. He's working to get his PGA Tour card. He placed 26th, and the top 25 get their card, and that's what led him to talk to Troy. We're going to talk about his success since he started using mental management. Enjoy. Okay, Kevin, I want to know, how did you get into golf in the first place?
So I got into golf actually pretty late. I played a bunch of different sports growing up. I played ice hockey from 3 till 12, and then baseball overlapped that, and I was playing with my older brother. And when he went to high school, I didn't have a team anymore, so then I had to pick an individual sport, and then that's when I picked up golf at about 13 or 14, and my grandpa lived on a golf course in Long Beach and just kind of stuck with it that way.
Nice. So when did you get good at it, though?
I worked pretty hard, so I kind of saw some potential within the first year or two, and then got into high school and made the varsity team as a freshman, and just kind of kept getting better. And then sophomore, junior year, realized that I can go to college for it, and then went to Oklahoma State to play golf.
Nice. And what led you to work with Troy and get started and interested in the mental game? Can you give us like the backstory?
Yeah, so I never really had any mental training before, and I kind of got a pretty good dose of reality. In 2018, I finished 26th on the Korn Ferry Tour money list, and 25 get promoted to the PGA Tour. And it wasn't a physical thing. In the middle of the year, I believe I missed 6 or 7 cuts in a row, and my golf game felt good. So it wasn't like I was hitting errant tee shots and just shooting bad scores. I just mentally wasn't in the right place, and I surrounded myself with an unbelievable team, and my swing coach, EJ, knows Troy, and he said, hey, I think we should give Troy a call, and that's kind of how we got into it.
Yeah, but he's not telling you the full story. Tell her the mental coach you had before, or the only mental help you had. So he calls me up and says, okay, my first question I always ask people is, have you worked on the mental game ever? And of course they tell me something. Usually it's, I worked with this person.
I read this book
or that book. He had a whole different story. It was probably the most unique story I've ever heard. So do you mind sharing that?
No, definitely. So when it came to mental, I'd say my first kind of, I wouldn't say coach, just advice that I got was from Aaron Rodgers. And we met through Justin Timberlake, through the clothing company that I wear, Grayson. Justin loves Grayson. We got to play golf together, and so that's kind of how that connection met. But when I'd ask Aaron, hey, like, I'm struggling, kind of what route should I go, and he just really talks about breathing. So that's about the extent of mental that I had until we started working together.
And it's just like this, so calm, so cool.
It's
like, doesn't everybody talk to Justin and Aaron?
No
I don't understand.
Aaron Rodgers is like my buddy. No big deal.
Yeah. It was like, Aaron Rodgers. You're not talking about the Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, the quarterback. Yeah, that guy. Like, really? How'd you meet him? The friends get together. I'm like, what friend's that? He goes, Justin Timberlake. Like, not the guy. I'm like, oh.
Well, celebrities have friends too. Like, this is a really great thing.
That's the one thing about golf. I mean, everyone just loves to play golf. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's not like you can grab a group of your buddies and go play tackle football. I mean,
you probably shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as you saw last week, they had the match with Aaron and Brady and Josh Allen and Mahomes, and I mean, everyone loved it. So it's just kind of something you can play forever and something everyone can do.
Yeah, but you can wax them, though, any day of the week. That's got to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, it would be like me trying to throw passes to Devontae and say that I can
but you could always tell Aaron that Devontae made that happen. Right?
We'll see.
You have to make that putt, right?
We'll see. With I think Devontae's number is going to go down quite a bit with.
That's going to be interesting.
Without Aaron throwing to him.
Who has a better year, Aaron or Devontae? I'm going to go with the guy that has the MVP record. That's who I'm going to.
Yeah, I'm going to say
go with him.
Aaron. Yeah.
So what would you say the biggest advice of the breathing and so forth that you got from him?
Yeah, so his big deal was he learned from a Navy SEAL. It was a 5-second inhale, 5-second pause and then 5-second exhale. And that's just to get your heart rate down. And it was very convincing because when he says he does it the most is in the 2-minute kind of 2-minute drill, 2-minute warning, whatever you want to call it. And he said the game starts to actually slow down, and he feels like he's moving in slow motion, and he's one of the best in history in that time frame. I mean, you've seen him come back, drive 80 yards in a minute and a half, and looks like he's just taking a walk in the park. So when I applied that to pressure situations, I definitely felt way more calm and not frantic, and everything's just kind of coming down on you.
That's much better advice than what I got from the Olympic Training Center in 1987. The sports psychologist there gave us a 30-minute breathing exercise to calm down. Like, I don't have 30 minutes. Yeah. So
you were supposed to execute a 30-minute breathing exercise when
if you're nervous.
I like the 5 seconds.
5 seconds to 10 to 15-second window. That's much better than a 30-minute. Yeah, he had all of us. We were all lying down the ground doing this exercise, and I remember lying there, and then I look at the guy next to me who is a veteran of shooting. Mm-hmm. He's 10 years older than I am. I'm only 17 at the time, and I look at him like, because I don't want to say anything, but I'm like, I don't understand the point. And he looked at me and goes, this is ridiculous. And I'm like, okay, I'm not the only one thinking that. So afterwards, I asked him, so why do you think that was ridiculous? He says, when are we going to have 30 minutes during shooting? We have a time limit to shoot a certain amount of shots. Yeah. If you're feeling nervous, you don't have that time. So I like that. That's really good. Really good tip. Thanks, Aaron. So
it sounds like that. It's actually a recovery strategy. Like that breathing exercise is essentially a recovery strategy.
Yeah, and that's one thing. Like, I mean, we only have 40 seconds to hit each shot. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we don't have time to lay on the ground and spend 30 minutes.
Yeah, and they're pretty strict about like if you try to push a little bit, they got a little short leash on you guys.
Yeah.
Keep the game going. But if you do have a good process, so let's get into your process. How if you break down how well you walk up to shot, when do you actually start thinking about the shot? This comes up with working with a lot of young players. They're like, I got to think all the time. I believe, no, you don't have to think all the time. Once you get to the ball, you start gathering information between one shot to the next, enjoy where you're at. When do you start actually thinking about that shot? Is it when you get to the ball? Is it a few steps before then? Like, when do you actually start paying attention to where you're at for this next shot?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot kind of situational based. I mean, once we get on the first tee, I'd say it's, I don't know, a minute before we need to hit it. And then kind of leading up to that, the second shot into the green, we're kind of thinking about where we want to leave it. So we're kind of thinking about the third shot. But I mean, that's just kind of personal preference. And then, I mean, I would say once we put the bag down and we start stepping off our yardages is kind of once we start to really solely focus on that task at hand, and everything else kind of just goes into a blur.
So when you started applying mental management to your own golf game, did you see success right away, or did you see consistency, or what was the result so far?
Yeah, no, it was very, very quick. I remember I gave you a call. I was actually on an off week because I tested positive for COVID, so I couldn't play.
Yay, COVID. Finally, something benefit from COVID.
So I remember gave you guys a call, and that next week, my caddy was out as well with COVID, and Joel Stock, who caddied for Ben Crane for a long time, filled in. So it was kind of nice to see myself putting the mental management into play with someone who's gone through it, and we had an unbelievable week. First time working together, I think we finished maybe top 10 and coming off not a great year. So I know it was really good and promising, and then we've just continued to kind of refine it. And I remember the year, 2020, right before I got married. It's literally the turning point to where now when I'm playing golf, it's all I think about. And we lost in a playoff there, and we've played very good ever since.
Sweet. So I know what you're thinking.
What?
So
when he got married,
right before married, did you use that breathing technique while you were up there? We've got his lovely wife over here.
Oh, when he
Yeah.
while she's walking down the
Oh,
aisle, was
but
he doing
yeah.
the breathing technique?
Yeah, was he doing his breathing exercise, Lindsay?
The only thing I
You
had
don't know?
going on, I just had tears roll down my eyes the second that she walked down
That's
the
so
aisle.
beautiful.
Yeah, and you're about to have your firstborn, huh?
We are any day, so this interview might get cut short.
Wow, that'd be exciting.
Yeah.
So, it comes out. You're going to be there
Yes.
for the delivery.
Yep. No matter what.
So when you see it, you're gonna be like, "There's no way that's a baby." And then it's amazing what cloth can do. Oh, there's a baby. It's a lizard, then it's a baby. And then the most exciting thing, I don't know about you, from a man's perspective, it's totally different than a woman's perspective because it doesn't matter what that baby looks like, they're going to love it. But you're looking at it going like, oh my gosh, because you've never seen anything like that. You're
Yeah.
like, and you're like, and all these emotions and thoughts go through your head that are completely, I'm pretty sure, opposite of what the mother's thinking.
Oh yeah.
But the moment they hand that baby to the mom, tell me if you keep a dry eye there.
No, not a chance. I mean,
Yeah,
I remember our first ultrasound. It just looked like a little peanut, and I had tears running down my face. So I can't imagine when she actually comes.
Yeah. We need to video Kevin on that. We need to have the camera on him when that moment happens on that one. So, okay, so we're more than halfway through this year, but you're sitting pretty good.
Yeah.
Right?
I've had a very solid year.
And so for people who are watching, a lot of people that we have are golfers that watch the show and so forth. They kind of know how the structure works. The PGA Tour is basically, they want you to go through this step ladder approach,
Yep.
which basically what you've done. You've gone through, you were on the Canadian Tour for a couple of years,
2 years out of college. Yeah.
and then you get on the Korn Ferry Tour,
Yep.
and then they want you to be on the PGA Tour,
Yep.
and then once you get good enough to where you can be like one of the success guys. So you're kind of going through that ladder.
Yeah.
So based on where you're at this year, how do you feel about where you're at? And
Yeah, so I'm extremely excited about this year so far. We're about just over halfway through, and I've just played the most consistent golf of my career. I think I've played 11 events of maybe the 14 we've had so far, and I've made 10 of the cuts, 2 top 10s, and the one cut I missed, I believe I shot 4 under for 2 days, and the cut was 5 under. So that's the one thing that's extremely promising. I know we talked about how we changed my practice this off season, and we've gone more for training for shot and scenario rather than training technique, and that's been life-changing. I mean, golf has been way more fun and artistic and creative and a more athletic kind of outlook to it rather than just trying to play golf swing.
yeah, which is what you like. You like creativity.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it really opened my eyes. I played with John Rahm, Phil Mickelson, and a close friend of mine, Tom Pernice, who kind of mentored me growing up, and we played right before everything got started back before COVID, and I think John was number 1 in the world at that time, and he shot the easiest 10-under par I've ever seen, and I was just wondering how he did it, and I kind of replayed the tape, and he was just so athletic, and you could just see he wasn't worrying about his golf swing. He would just kind of aim it here and just be athletic and move it into the fairway this way, and he kind of played so creatively to where if he did miss a shot, it still ended up very well.
Yeah. So good for you. So for those that don't know, training for the shot is more training on the driving range or the putting green or the chipping area, simulating more of what you're going to be on the actual round or tournament round of golf, as opposed to just hitting a ton of balls
Yeah.
on the driving range, working on technique and skill. But the person at your experience, you've hit millions of balls. It's like how much more you're going to gain out of that. What's the best when you play? What do you get out of it? Well, creativity. I'm able to hit certain shots. What if we take that and put it in there? So we like it because it trains all 3 areas of performance. You know, it forces you to think about the shot you're going to hit. It obviously builds and protects self-image at the same time you're working on skill. And that's been one thing that's been kind of fun, because when you're talking about training, it doesn't feel like training anymore.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
actually feels like more fun than torture, which I think most people are like, oh man, this is just torture. I'm working this drill, this drill, this drill. Because any good swing coach is going to have players do all these drills that half of them aren't really that fun. Some of them are, though.
Yeah.
Some of them are kind of challenging and, they're kind of neat, but a lot of them are like, really, you got to do that for like 15 minutes? Yeah, that's got to be boring as it is.
So basically what you're saying is working with Troy, you not only changed how you think, but you changed how you train?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Look at you go, Troy.
Yeah. And then, because I know you've worked with James Siekman quite a bit, and he follows you guys, and he's part of the team, and he watched me in Omaha last year, and he had a good week, but he said, criticism I have is what I see from the outside is that you have way too much focus on technique, which was going back to, what we parallel with kind of train for shot, and so yeah, definitely.
Yeah, dividing the preload and middle program to where if the preload allows you to focus on technique, but the middle program we don't want any. So if you're over the ball and you're having any thoughts like that, it could actually do the opposite of what a player wants. So you want to be free and just hit the shot. So our view is simple. Our view is if you're training and preparing correctly, why wouldn't you trust you're going to play great in the tournament? So let's do all the work on the preload, and let's free up the mind in the middle program to hit the shot as freely as possible. It doesn't matter what happens, because once that's done, you're going to evaluate it appropriately and move on. And so I want to go back briefly, change gears, because this has been in the back of my mind. So just in case Greg watches this, we're going to throw him in there. So when you played well with Joel, so how long did Greg realize, oh my gosh, is he going to take some spot?
No, because Joel knew it was a 1 week deal, and Greg did as well. And no, Greg's been great.
We could have pulled his leg.
We could have.
Oh darn, we're not quick enough.
Caddy?
Greg's not.
Yeah, Greg's.
I'm all confused. I don't follow.
Yeah, we've been together for 5 years.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and he's all in as well on just everything we do, and he's in the team meetings, and yeah, he's been amazing. So.
He's like opposite personality of Kevin, so they work really well together. And so I was telling you this a couple weeks ago about the advantages of having someone that's from a personality, or we call it behavioral styles, opposite. They have advantages that are your disadvantages. You have advantages that are your disadvantages. So if you're on the same page, okay, I'm good at this, you're good at that, let's work together at focusing on what we're good at, it can elevate your advantage over your competitors, because most people don't even look at that. I'm amazed when I see a player just grab someone off the street.
Yeah.
It's like Jerry Kelly, the first time he met Eric. It was strictly, hey, you don't have a caddy. Player just say, hey, you don't have your caddy this week. Nah, I need to pick one up. Well, he didn't have a player this week. Why don't y'all get together? And they've clicked ever since. And Eric's been with Jerry for
rolling dice.
But it's because I think they're opposite of each other from personality, so they're very good at communicating.
They complement each other well, then.
They do. But a lot of times you'll have the butt heads because they're both good at the same thing. Well, if you're the player and you're good at the same thing, who's going to make the decision?
Yeah, it's got to be.
9 times out of 10, it's the player. Very few times, or maybe 99% out of 100. You might have that 1% where the player would be like, just tell me what to hit and I'll hit it. Like a robot. Most players, overwhelmingly, they want to make the decision. And I think that's because when you're in college, you're forced to do that. You don't have a caddy when you're in junior player and you're in college. You're forced to do it. Then you go pro, and now you have this caddy. You got to build this relationship. So, yeah, you and Greg have done a great job of building that relationship and that rapport. And
okay, so what's your advice to choosing a good caddy then?
Oh, you got to get lucky for sure. That's that's one thing, because you see the turnover out there. There's guys that they'll go through 8 caddies in 25 events a year. So you definitely got to find one that works extremely hard, does all their on-course work and stuff like that, and you just got to find one that you mesh with and that you can spend a lot of time with.
You gotta like them, I'm assuming.
You're with them
that would be tough.
25 weeks out of the year, and you're with them from 8 to 4 almost every day. So. Yeah.
Oh, you mean he gets more Greg time than Lindsay time? Oh, yeah.
Quality over quantity, though. That's it.
There you go. Definitely when the new baby comes, that'd be. So what's your plans? What do we got moving up? We got almost towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
Championship comes. When is that for y'all in the Korn Ferry? You have the championship.
Say, what is it? End of August, beginning of September. I want to
Okay.
say.
So that's coming up soon.
Yeah. So I'm taking this week off, hoping to have our baby this week. Hopefully she's on time.
So that means we're taking next week off.
Yeah, maybe.
Baby never goes on the schedule
I
that you
know.
want. Yeah.
Hoping she takes after my personality and is like on time, very direct. But Wichita is next week, so I'm gonna probably drive up there Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, if we haven't had her yet, and then just kind of be on call the whole time. And then I'll probably take off Maine and then play the rest. So I believe I have 6 events.
So July is going to be a busy month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then when's your downtime? So one of the things that I find interesting about golf, it's very similar to Olympic sports, where if you have all the time and the money in the world, you can compete every week. I mean, there's always a tournament going on somewhere around the world that you can compete in, that you probably want to compete in.
Yeah.
So when is your off time that you say, no, this is time that this ends my season and then begins the season? I know the tour has a specific time, but I look at it from a player's perspective, could be quite different. When do you take that time, and how much time do you take off?
Yeah, so the PGA Tour has the Fall Series, which starts up, I believe, a week or two after the 3 playoff events for the Korn Ferry and PGA Tour guys. And then I want to say there's 4 to 6 events in that fall. And then probably say middle of November is kind of when I completely stop playing tournament golf, and then get picked back up middle of January. So there's about 2 months.
Yeah.
So
And so you take a week or two, just rest, and then
Yeah, I
kind
would
of slowly
say-
get back into the grind, or what?
yeah, I think after the season, 2 weeks for sure is. I mean, I won't touch a club. We went to Costa Rica last year for 8 days, so do something similar to that.
You'll be spending a lot of time in the nursery,
She'll just come with us everywhere we go.
you know, picking her up, doing all kinds of stuff. That'd be kind of
Babies
cool.
enter your life. You don't enter theirs.
Yeah,
so
that's the one
they
thing
come
that
with you
Yeah.
and do all
We've always
the
talked
things.
about is that they're just gonna be along for the ride. We're not gonna change our life because that's how we were raised, and we're both very outgoing and adventurous, and that's kind of how we want our daughter to be.
Love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so of all of the mental management products or principles, what's your favorite?
Ooh, I probably have 2.
Okay.
The one I really like is the journal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the performance analysis. I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to notebooks and pens and writing notes, and it just really clicks with me that way. I believe for Christmas, my wife got me some notebooks last year, and I was ecstatic. So that was, I like the concept.
I
of
want my
putting-
husband to be that simple. I'll get you a notebook,
of
and he'll be
putting,
happy.
like a pen to paper is something that I really enjoy.
It wasn't a Mont Blanc, was it?
No.
Okay, that would have
Not
made me
yet.
ecstatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the concept that I really enjoy that is a challenge for me is the reload.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people can skip out on that just because if something doesn't go the way they are, it's common nature is to get frustrated and kind of beat yourself down. And I think that's been maybe the biggest part that's helped me is I just take that 5 extra seconds of if something doesn't go as planned or if something went really well, I want to kind of re-imprint it. That really helps me and just kind of gets me to move on and just forget about it.
Love that.
Yeah, and if you ever read his performance analysis, you would say it's got to be, if not the best, it's, I mean, like that. Probably the best person that I work with that does a performance analysis is Kevin. I think I've used his example more than anyone else in the last 20 years. This is how you need to do it. I just hand him a copy, Kevin.
Well, it sounds like he's a
So-
rule follower and he's very detail oriented and
Yeah,
he loves
very.
to write. So that's the perfect.
Is that right?
Trait.
Yep.
That's to a T. Yeah.
Yeah. EJ told me, Troy, if you whatever you tell him, he'll do. I'm like, no, golfers don't work that way. He goes, he's not your typical golfer. He understands that if you're going to be the best at what you're going to do, then there's things that you got to do, and you got to put the right team together. Trust in them. What's the point of having a team if you don't trust them? And he probably does the best job of anybody. of doing that. So fascinating, though, that the journal's the number one thing that comes up every time you ask that question.
Every time, pretty much, that's the thing that people appreciate the most, and probably because you're using it every single day.
Yeah.
You're not going to read with one in your mind every single day. You're going to read it, put it away, read it again, put it away. But a journal, you're going to grab all the time.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense that it would be people's favorite. Plus, we're only going to interview people who've been successful, so therefore, people who are successful usually keep a journal. Typically.
Yeah, or people who are they're on their way to becoming the person they want to be. Part of that becoming is logging that journal, which is about what? Your performance. It's like our dad would say, it's not a lack of performance journal. You're not complaining about what happened that day. You're looking at, okay, what were the successes? And some days you don't have success, but you learned a lot. So I'm going to write down what I learned. And if you go back and reread it, you're going to see that, hey, I'm becoming this player that if I keep this path, I can accomplish these things. Allows the self-image of the player to grow to where if you don't have the self-image to where, hey, I'm top 30 in the world, then you're never going to get out of the tour that you're on now. Like if you've got guys that are on a Canadian tour that are just focusing on trying to win a Canadian tour and not becoming a person that can win the Korn Ferry tour, they're going to be limited to their success. So by doing this, it makes everything possible moving forward. So I think that's a huge advantage.
So you wrote For the Mind before you met Kevin in the first place. And
Yeah.
yet your
He's-
character's name is
Manifested it into the book.
Yeah.
There we go. That's right. If you haven't read For the Mind, the mental program for golf, great book.
Now everyone's going to think, oh, that's that guy.
It's not.
Yeah. But maybe, well, hopefully you'll just make it look very weak.
Yeah, exactly.
You make that Kevin look bad. Then I'll have to come up with a sequel book to match you.
Yeah.
There you
exactly.
go.
We'll come up with a sequel, The Real Kevin.
Yeah, that'd be good.
You know, one this made you, this made you, this made. That'd be kind of cool. So, yeah, that was supposed to be a 3-part series, but it took me 3 years to write that book. And I'm like, I don't think I want to spend another 3 years writing a book. It's hard.
It's a long time.
I think you should do it.
I do too.
You want to know what's harder than winning a golf tournament?
Writing a book.
Writing a book. Yeah. So,
Although it sounds to me like Kevin has what it takes to write a good book.
I don't know.
yeah, you should
Yeah.
start. You got everything journaled.
No.
You're good to go.
Yeah.
Don't you
I
think?
don't have enough time.
You don't have to have time. You have a ghostwriter.
Ghostwriter.
Yeah. Just tell them what
But
you
then you
want
got
to
to
put it
spend
in
time
there.
with someone else all the time.
There you go, Greg. You're the ghostwriter.
Awesome. Well, I've enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, it's
It's
been
been
great.
fun to kind of see the behind the scenes of how you met Troy and all of the backstory. And I don't follow golf that much, and now I'm going to have to.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to be watching some golf tournaments here pretty soon.
Be fun.
So thank you all so much for joining us. If you like this, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and join our Patreon because we're going to spend a little more time picking Kevin's brain.